call this the 10-20-70 rule of accountability. You need to have a plan. And it doesn't, see, a lot of times we think accountability is, okay, I have to go fire everybody. Hey, Eric, man, I'm telling you, this is what you do. Coaching is what you do. This would be great. And I'm like, I'm not really looking to make a move right now. If you're focused on hiring for attitude and personality, I think you're more likely to find that person. It does have to do with you as the leader being able to engage the team. The key is you have to establish a culture at your shop. That's the bottom line. Everybody doesn't have is that engaging culture. If you take ownership, you'll get better faster.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. Today, we have Eric Twiggs, ATI coach for going on 14 years now. So thank you, Eric, so much for being with us today.
Hey, thank you for having me on your show. This is truly an honor.
Yeah, no, I'm honestly honored myself to be able to. I mean, this is the first time we met for full transparency for everyone listening today. But I'm looking forward to this conversation that we're able to have. But Eric, for the audience, maybe for the very few people that probably don't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself in terms of like your background, how you kind of got started in the automotive industry, and then how it kind of came to today of being a coach.
Yeah, so I'm Eric Twiggs, and I'm a coach with the Automotive Training Institute. I've been in the business for 30 years, just working my way up through the ranks. I started out, I was a service advisor in a shop. I've been a shop manager. I've been a district manager where I had as many as 17 locations and 500 employees working for me at any given time. And so prior to joining ATI, I was a district manager, and one of my colleagues who worked with the same company went to work for ATI, and he would say, Eric, man, I'm telling you, this is what you do. Coaching is what you do. This would be great. And I'm like, I'm not really looking to make a move right now, but thank you. And he just kept calling me and talking about it. And then one day I took him up on it, and I had an interview with Brian Stash, and the rest is history. And I haven't looked back since.
That is super cool. That's awesome. And so in terms of the transition from being sort of service advisor in the hierarchy management there to coaching, was it sounds like it was a pretty natural transition, or did it takes, like I say, a little bit of a learning curve to get used to coaching?
Well, the funny thing is, like, I had no idea I was going to be a coach. Like, I never sat down on a whiteboard and had coach written at the top. It just kind of happened. I think I took to it naturally. And a lot of the things I do now, I would actually do with like my managers. I would have one-on-ones, and I'd be asking them questions, and they would be telling me a lot of the things. And it just kind of naturally evolved. But there's a lot more to coaching than meets the eye. And that's what I've learned since I've been here and been fortunate to get like executive coaching certifications and those types of things.
That's very cool. And so today in particular, though, we're going to go into diving into accountability. Maybe for some people, they're going to mentally tune out here, like, I don't want to be held accountable some more. I'm already held accountable enough. But I think the process and kind of the procedure that you've created in terms of accountability and processes for a shop, and really the most important thing of getting people on board is very interesting and very effective in what you've done. So I'd love to dig into talking about that a little bit more today. So if you could describe to us again, what is this accountability process?
Well, let me back up a little bit. So the challenge is that you think that, okay, I've had a meeting, so let's say there's a change that let's say you go to this conference and you get these great ideas, and you're like, oh man, this is excellent. I'm going to have my team do it. And you have a meeting with everybody. And then you think as the leader, okay, I've said it, I put it out there, it's going to happen. But the thing I try to share with my members and clients, things like that, is that, like, if you have a meeting and you don't have a system for follow-up, you don't have a system for accountability, it's like the meeting never happened. Mm-hmm. It's like you really didn't have the meeting. So I ended up coming up with this system or thought process just based off of years of frustration, to be honest with you.
Awesome. So again, why don't Why don't we elaborate a little bit on
Sure.
what this process is that you've kind of come up with through this experience?
So yeah, so I've been here at ATI. I've been fortunate enough to have done over 30,000 coaching sessions.
Wow.
And so I call this the 10-20-70 rule of accountability, right?
Okay.
10-20-70. So if you roll out a change, and again, this is just based off of my experience, I find that you're going to have 10% of your staff that just won't be on board. They're just going to disagree. No matter how common sense the change is, that 10%, they're just going to disagree just to disagree. They probably were a bad hire. So you have that 10%. And then you have 20% who they're what I call like, they're like the early adopters.
Mm.
They get it. Yeah, I mean, they're doing it because the boss said to do it. They want to be in good standing. So they're just going to jump on it. But then you have the rest of the 70%, they could really go either way.
Mm.
Right. It really depends on the culture. It depends on the leadership. It depends on the relationship you have with them. So really, if you just communicate something and you don't have a system for follow up, a system to hold people accountable, you're only can count on what 20%, 2 out of 10 to follow through. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that when they think about accountability.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And like honestly, that percentage might even be doing a little bit of favors in terms of 20% being the go-getters, but obviously it gets the point across in terms of, hey, if you don't have a process to like, yes, you sent this out and then just to magically assume everyone does it and is locked in is definitely foolish in terms of in hopes and dreams and making sure that happens. So um what then would you be your suggestions to like say a shop owners come and see you and they're like, hey, I keep trying to make these changes in the shop and I it's just not getting across. Like to me, then it can't be just the blame is all on the people because obviously, as we explained, yes, maybe 10% of those people it would be the people, but 90% of the rest there should be form of how they can do things. So what would be then your suggestion and the steps that you kind of help them and guide them through?
Well, first thing again, you have to understand that ratio, but then you need to have a plan, right? You need to know what you're going to do when you first encounter that employee who's not doing what you asked them to do, right? So let's say you said, okay, we're going to now be we're going to be doing courtesy checks. We're going to do the digital vehicle inspections on every vehicle, right? Let's say that's the change. You weren't doing the digital vehicle inspections before. And when you get back to the shop, you have to be thinking in your mind, okay, what am I going to do when I walk past Joe and Joe is not doing the digital vehicle inspections? Because that's what's going to happen. You're not going to have 100% compliance.
Yep.
So you have to have that pre-planned. And it doesn't see a lot of times we think accountability is okay, I have to go fire everybody. And that's not what I'm saying. Hopefully nobody's getting that message. Nobody's saying Coach Twiggs said to go fire everybody. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, it could be as simple as we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to pull them to the side and say, hey, is this what we talked about during the meeting? And then if it continues, we need to be prepared to say, okay, what does my accountability process look like? Is it verbal warning the first time? Do I put something in writing? The second time it's the same thing. Is it verbal 3 write-ups? What does my process look like? So you have that, and then also we need to establish what are your non-negotiables, right? I think every business should have a set of non-negotiables. I mean, look, we're not looking to rule with an iron fist. It's not a my way or the highway type of thing. But there are certain standards, there's certain things that should just be considered, especially if it's something related to safety, right?
Absolutely.
Here are our non-negotiables. We're going to wear our personal protective equipment. We're going to fill out the courtesy. But so once that's established, then it's not necessarily, okay, are we going to do this? It's going to be how exactly are we going to make this work as you're communicating with the team.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think it comes down to, so those non-negotiables now, would you say that absolutely has to be in writing, or what is kind of your suggestion there?
Yeah, I think putting it in writing is a critical thing. And I would even have where we used to, in the old days, we used to call it an I know it coupon,
Uh-huh.
right? So that way they would sign so they couldn't go back down the road and say, oh, I didn't know that you expected me to do this process.
Uh-huh.
So so we and what I would say is, let's say I have a meeting with everybody, we go through the non-negotiables, and before I ask everybody to sign, it's okay, look, let's get all the questions out right now, because it's my expectation once you sign that this is the thing we're doing. This is the direction that we're moving in.
Yep.
Okay, so now you're signing with that understanding.
Yep.
But it's very important. So what happens is, if you have non-negotiables and then you start talking about them like it's negotiable, people will negotiate with you, and you'll start getting more pushback.
Yep.
But again, if you kind of really position it, like I said before, where it's more of, okay, how are we going to make this work? It's not are we going to make this work, right? This is the plan going forward. I want you to be a part of the solution. Let's talk about how we're going to make this work.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so how often do you think are you running into cases where shops don't have such a thing as a non-negotiable list that either they have posted on the wall within the shop, or have a set before they even start on their first day, they're signing on the dotted line saying, like, they understand that these are non-negotiable. Like, are you seeing it pretty often that everyone has this, or is it something that's missing quite often?
It's missing quite often. So a lot of shops they may have a position description, and some shops will even have policies and procedures. I think the more shops that are involved with ATI for a longer part of the time, because these are things that we preach. So the shops that have been in the ATI program, for example, they tend to, it's more likely that they're going to have these things. But the non-negotiables piece is rare. And that's why I try to focus on that with my members, that really making sure that it's clear, and everybody understands what the expectations are.
Yes, no, definitely. Oh, perfect. Well, now I would love to, like, I want to kind of dive into it separately. We're going to talk about the 10%, and I want to talk about the 20%, and then I want to talk about the 70%.
Oh, good.
So the 10%, let's get them out of the way. So the 10% are going to be obviously the people that will not buy in. They almost will not care what process change, because it's like their way is the way. This is the way they've done it maybe for years, or they're brand and fresh new, and they have this really big ego on their side, where they feel like, well, they know best. So what would you say is the answer? Hey, you need to get them out, or is there more of a process that can maybe possibly course correct them? Like, what do you kind of help owners do?
Well, I think you do. You want to start by working with people and making sure they're clear on what's expected, and they understand what's expected. And I think you just can't automatically go into the shop and put somebody in a 10% bucket. That's the other thing. A lot of times I've gone in and been told things about people, and then as I start interacting with them, I find it to be the complete opposite. For me, they're a 20%er, right?
Yeah.
But for other people, they might be the 10%, because maybe there's an issue they've just checked out, right? So I think you want to work. You want to make sure they understand that radio station, right? WIIFM. Everybody listens to the same radio station, believe it or not. WIIFM is what's in it for me. So they need to understand what's in it for me. Why is this a good idea for the car? Why is it a good idea for the company? Why is it a good idea for the customer? And why is it a good idea for me? Right? How am I going? So you do need to make sure that's clearly communicated. Right. So that's the first thing. I think people need to understand, because I think people are motivated by both the carrot and the stick. Right. So some people are motivated by, hey, here's what I can gain by doing this. And then others are motivated by, here's the consequence if I don't do it. And again, it doesn't have to be termination. It could be, poor customer service, lower sales, harder to, we don't have as much revenue coming in to fix that lift, and bay number 3 you keep talking to me about. So there needs to be that understanding of the consequence and the benefit. So I think if you've gone through what's in it for me, you've clarified what the benefits are, what the consequences are, and that person still, and then they've got the training and everything to do it, and they still aren't doing it, then you can start to conclude that, yeah, okay, they're in the 10%, and we need to take the next steps.
Gotcha. No, I agree. I think that is absolutely always has to start with some level of communication. You can't just take the shortcut of like, well, it's not worth my time to start this over. So just, hey, I'll just find someone new. Obviously, as we're seeing in this day and age, it's not so simple to just find someone
No,
new. so
no.
so that's there's a lot of effort and communication that needs to happen. And I love that you mentioned the word why a fair amount, like helping them understand why this has to happen, why the customer has to, why the repair like this has to be this way. So, well, do you think that why is missing for a lot of shops of like the owner is not properly explaining the why, or is it something else?
I think so. I think a lot of times it's a breakdown in communication. Poor communication is such a common issue
Mm-hmm.
in businesses as a whole. As a matter of fact, I was reading something. They said that poor communication costs the typical company $11,000 per day per employee.
Wow.
So it's a big problem. So I think a lot of times we think we've communicated the why, but if you ask the employee, he's like, I have no idea what we're doing. so, so there's that disconnect,
Yeah.
right? And I hate to admit this. This is embarrassing. I can't tell you how many times where let's say I've communicated a new pay plan, and then one day I just assume they get it. Then one day I ask them to explain how it works, and they can't.
Mm.
Because again, I think the communication has happened, but they're just not getting it. They're just like, okay, yeah, right, okay,
Yeah.
right, I get it. So I think that's it. A lot of times it's that failure to communicate that really holds us back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think you mentioned one small thing that you considered as a fault, where like you then asked them and they had no idea what was going on still, but you did ask them. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a big thing that's missing a lot, is where it's announced once and then you just sit back and assume it's all good. You never ask them again in order to like ensure that it's reiterated and it's kind of so deep into like what they do. And then eventually, obviously, it might course correct. It goes a different direction, and then you just let them go. It's like, well, they obviously didn't get it. They didn't understand, and there isn't that ownership of what could have possibly been easily changed there. So, yeah, I think definitely nail on the head. 10%. Those are the steps to take. So now we have the 20%ers that are like the absolute go getters. I think the real question becomes like, how do I find more of those, Eric? Well, where are they all? So, like, what would you say is kind of the main characteristics that you've noticed in those 20%ers? And then we can talk about a little bit of how we can possibly field those ahead of time.
Well, I think they respond. They respond to the direction and sometimes, especially if it's somebody on, let's say, the service counter,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times they may not come from the automotive industry, right? They might have the customer service skills and selling skills, but from a different industry. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the baggage and the bad habits
Yep.
a lot of times. So, that's why you hire for attitude and personality, and you can certainly train the skill, because that type of individual, that was me. When I first started in automotive, I was not a car person. And I remember when I got to my first shop, the boss said, hey, you know what? Make sure you offer this maintenance package to every customer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know any better. I just did what he said. Right. Where there were people that were at my location they've been doing this for years and years. Oh, Eric, you don't understand that people in this area, they don't like the maintenance packages. Oh, they don't have the money. I didn't know any of those things. I
Yeah.
just knew what the boss told me. So I guess I would have been a 20%er
Mm-hmm.
in those days. So I do think it helps if you're focused on hiring for attitude and personality. I think you're more likely to find that person, and it does have to do with you as the leader being able to engage the team.
Mm,
Because here's the thing, right? We can't put it all on the employees.
absolutely.
Because there's some people, I said a little while ago, there's some people who are in the 10% box for you that might be in the 20% box for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, if you check in and you engage and they really align with your vision, you never know what people will be willing to do. But just for the typical averages, yes, you do have the people that just get it. So, and I would say if you identify someone at your shop who is in that group, they just get it. They do what you say. They perform. They're great with customers. We need to find out, who do they know? Because the 20%ers will tend to hang with other people that are like them.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a great tidbit to, it's like, obviously I've heard where, yeah, people always are asking everyone in their shop, like, we need help. Who can you reach out to? But like asking the right people in the shop, or like the ones that you know that you can trust, I think is a big factor there too, where you can just like even narrow it out even more so for yourself, and knowing that, okay, if this person that gets referred and they trust each other, more than likely it's going to be a similar personality trait that is attractive to the shop, and what needs to happen. So I do like that tidbit a lot. But then in terms of possibly during the interview process, I'm sure you've done a fair amount of interviews in your experience, and so seeing different personalities, seeing what works, seeing what's not. What have you seen as maybe like your best questions to fill them out, or the best ways, maybe the best questions they've asked in return, that is like, okay, yep, they want this, they have the right head on their shoulders? Like, what are those kinds of traits and things that you've seen and noticed?
Well, just in general, people that we call the A players, the people
Mm-hmm.
that just get it, they tend to talk in more specific terms. Where I find that the average or the below average performers tend to talk in generalities,
Mm,
right? So, for example, the top performer is able to say, you know what, I consistently produced 40 hours a week and I had zero comebacks. They have specific things. The people that aren't as good from a form, they tend to talk, oh, yeah, we had happy customers and yeah, we had a good team and I gave it 100%. They tend to talk in that language. But the people that say, you know what, in a district of 14 stores, when I got to this location, it was number 7. And then I did X, Y, and Z. And now when I'm leaving, it's number 1. When they can talk in those specifics. So those are some things to look out for. But I think in the interview, it's very important to listen for 80% and talk 20%.
mm.
Because literally, if you listen, people will tell you who they are.
No, absolutely.
So that's the really the key thing there is when you're doing the interviews to really listen and ask questions like that are open ended, like tell me about a time when blah blah blah, where they have to talk.
Mm. Yep, I 100% agree, and I think that's a trap a lot of like owners fall into, is where like they're looking for the exact thing that they have in their mind. Like, okay, the person needs to check all this list. So in order for me to figure that out, I need to ask all these exact questions, and it's almost like yes or no. And anyone can fib on a yes or no answer. Maybe they didn't even understand the question, and so thus they answered it wrong, and it happened to be the right answer for you. So that's where I love that you're saying to ensure that they listen. Because naturally, you can feel the passion that not, because in the very beginning, for every person, I mean, yes, maybe some people are not very nervous in an interview, but some people in an interview setting are just like, okay, this is going to be my boss, and I need to make sure I'm saying the exact right things. But as you layer in all these open-ended questions, naturally they're just talking, and then you can just start to feel their personality, and then you can see that, oh, the way they answered that is not really what we would want to do there in that situation, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing, there's something I picked up. It's called the TED model. Like if
Mm,
you're talking to somebody on an interview, so the questions should start with tell, explain, or describe. TED. Right.
okay.
So that because those types of questions they force people to talk and they force people to. And then another little tidbit is I'll repeat back the last 3 to 5 words that they say. So let's say someone says, "Yeah, the owner and I didn't get along." I say, "Oh, you didn't get along?" And they just, "Oh yeah," and they just start telling me all the things that they didn't plan
Mm,
to say when they first walked in the room. So
yeah.
those are some key things to really identify who's in front of you.
I like that. So like, again, for those that maybe missed it there, tell, explain, describe. So then that's just saying, hey, you're in your question that you're qualifying them. You're saying, tell me a time, or explain to me a time, describe to me a time. That's how you would use those words. So I think that's very important to note down, because I know not everyone is that good at interview. Because like, I mean, it takes practice the same way, where like, yes, the interviewee is coming in and you want to be impressed by them, but you as the interviewer need to be impressive as well. Like, because you need this, if it's a highly qualified person, they're going to be highly sought after. And so you need to make sure that you're the place that, like, oh, I want to work for this person because they're
Mm,
with it. They're asking me good questions. So it's very important both ways.
that's an outstanding point you just mentioned because like the thing is like an A player doesn't want to go to work for a B player.
Yep.
Someone who's got a lot of options, they're sizing you up too and asking, do I want to work for this person?
Yep, absolutely. And then I think as you start, you naturally see that more a like if you're seeing that your 20 is like you're like thinking about this, like my 20% is actually much bigger than that. And more than likely it's because you have created and fostered this culture where you are seen as an A player yourself. And thus now more people are coming in and attracted to like what you're bringing to the table. So I like that a lot. Now we're going to go into the 70%. So this is absolutely where the rubber is going to meet the road in
Mm-hmm.
terms of determining the trajectory of your shop, whether it's going to stay stagnant or fall off a cliff or keep rolling up that mountain and reaching incredible heights. So what would you say is going to be okay, this first step that needs to be taken with this 70% to at least have a step in the right direction versus a step against? Because I think that first step is so crucial in kind of determining which way it's going to go. So what would you say is kind of like that first go-to thing to help move it in the right way?
Well, the key is you have to establish a culture at your shop.
Hmm.
That's the bottom line, especially today, right? Because we're in a competitive time.
Hmm.
Everybody's got a website. Everybody's got convenient hours. Everybody's got digital vehicle inspections. But what everybody doesn't have is that engaging culture.
Hmm.
And so your competitor can't copy that. And you really want to establish, the culture is defined as, okay, this is what we do here. I mean, we see it in sports. There's certain teams that change players, key players get hurt, but they still win
Yeah.
because it's all about the culture. You have people that may come in from outside who are malcontents, but when they come on this team, all of a sudden they fall in line.
Hmm.
Football, we think about the New England Patriots, and basketball, we think about the Miami Heat. They have a culture. And I think you have to establish a culture for your shop where everybody understands here are the standards, here are our values, this is what we do. And that's what's going to influence that 70%.
Yep, absolutely. And I think culture is always a hot word for some people where they're just like, well, what what even is that? Like they're almost like, I mean, it almost sounds just like a trendy word in a sense. Like what does that mean? So if you were to like kind of describe the culture at its roots of like a really high performing shop, how would you go in and describe that?
So the typical example would be, we we look out for our internal customer, and our passion is the internal and external customer doing it right the first time. So it's really about agreeing on a set of standards,
Mm,
right? So everybody has, some shops have 5 standards, 6 standards, 7 standards that everybody is aligned to. And so the challenge with getting this in place is that it doesn't happen overnight. You don't just flip a switch and now you have a culture. It takes, I would say, at a minimum of 2 years to really get that in place. So, for example, like, we have 24 fundamentals at ATI
mhm.
that we're aligned with, and we share that with the shops. And so, for example, one of the standards is, or the values is practicing blameless problem solving, right? So each week we'll have like a fundamental of the week, and we teach the shops to do this the same way. So we get the shops, they identify what their fundamentals are, and they have meetings, they talk about it every week, and then they recognize people who do it.
Mm,
And then over the course of time, it gets baked in, and now you start to attract people who do those things.
yes, absolutely. Again, yeah, you're just hitting the nail on the head here for us in terms of just doing the little things here will then naturally attract them. Because I think the hardest, I don't know, the most common, not to say the word excuse, but most common thing that people are saying is that just that they can't find people, and like no one's showing up and whatnot. And I think, I mean, yes, some things are out of someone's control, but I think the best thing that you can possibly do is reflect on like what really am I giving out? Like, are we giving out the wrong thing? Like, what is happening internally that's kind of causing this breakdown? So I love the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko
Yes.
Willink. I don't know if you've read that book or not,
Yes.
but that like the first time I read it, I was like, man, this is so powerful yet so like so hard to do for an individual. Like, because it's, I mean, naturally we have a little bit of pride no matter what. But then to swallow your pride and say, like, no matter what, it is my fault. Like, I am the leader, I'm the boss. And even if I wasn't even at the shop today and like that circumstance happened, and so like I had no part in playing in hand on the items that happened. Finding a way that you did play a part is so powerful. And I think the team will recognize that.
Sure. Yeah. And it's very, very rare that people just get that naturally. And I'm
Yes.
even saying for myself, because I was always like, oh, it's them. There's these people around here don't want to work. And this, and no, it's not them. I have to start with me.
Yep.
What do I need to change so I can get a better result? How do I, what is it about my approach that's attracting these people to me?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because I played baseball all through college, and I'm thinking about like my mindset, the way that I was in college, like, and I was a pitcher, and thinking about like, oh, if that play was just made, or like, oh, that hit was just luck, like I had nothing, like that just resulted in the bad inning. Like, but instead, if I had thought about like, oh no, if I just had made a slightly better pitch, or maybe if just like the way that my like emotions were displayed on the mound were differently, than like the team would have reacted differently to said thing. So there's just so much that I wish like I could like go back and like adjust my mindset the way it was then versus now. But obviously like, there's just, it doesn't matter what point in time you are as a leader, there's so much you can do to adjust and change. So it's not too late, because when it is too
No.
late is when you get to the point where your business is struggling and then giving up, and you should have taken a lot of other steps here sooner.
But if you take ownership, you'll get better faster. Because if
Absolutely.
you look at everything, okay, it's my fault. Now that I've established that it's my fault, what can I do to fix it? But as long as it's the economy and these other things, you'll stay in that state forever.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so as we spoke, I think a common theme that we've seen across 10%, 20%, 70% has been communication, some form of communication at the end of the day. How often do you think a leader needs to then communicate with their team? Obviously, we're talking about shops are all kinds of different sizes. Some are running multi-shop locations with tons and tons of employees. They're like, there's no way I can talk to each of every person. But obviously, there are directs that you have. What would you consider as a good balance that they should be having in terms of that communication?
So I can tell you what some of the top shops we rank. We have like 1,700 shops in the program. We
Mm-hmm.
rank the best of the best. We get to the top 12. So I can tell you the top shops tend to they have this meeting rhythm. So they'll start with daily morning huddles,
Mm,
right? So that's getting everybody first thing before you start the day and going through the wins. Hey, great job, Joe, yesterday. Hey, Susie, great job. Hey, we need this today. Here's our goal. Here's our target. So you have your daily morning huddle meeting to get people kind of motivated and on the same page. And then they'll have a weekly one-on-one, and they really and you prioritize it by like your key people. You this one-on-one meeting, and you schedule it same day, same time, which creates accountability because they
mm,
know, okay, I'm gonna have to talk to Eric every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We're going to have this one-on-one that's 15 to 20 minutes to talk the recap performance, to celebrate the wins, talk about challenges, find out what support they need from leadership, and agree on a plan forward. So you have that, and then you have like a monthly team meeting, kind of a state of the union type thing where you're letting everybody know how we're doing as a shop, where are we winning, where are we falling short, public recognition, all of those things. So that's a typical meeting rhythm for the successful shops.
wow. I mean, I'm sure for a lot of owners listening now, like, holy crap, I'm not even doing one. Like, so it is, in my opinion, there is no other way. Like, I think those meetings have to happen. Like, you just need to figure out a way to make the time to make that happen. Or is there possibly a slightly different mechanic that you think someone can pull off?
Well, here's the thing, right? Just because something has to be done, it doesn't mean that you have to do it,
Mm,
right? So ideally, you can get a second in command. You want to call them a COO, lead manager type person that you train, and that person can run with the day to day. And as a shop owner, you're working more on the business, but those conversations need to happen. And that's the key. And it's just, it's also checking in with people. If
yes.
you know, because we talk about making sure our shop owners are getting goals. What are our people's personal and professional and health goals? And just checking in from time to time. Hey, I see your daughter, you wanted to put her in private school. How's that coming? So just having those check-in conversations, but communication is the key. And I always just say, I think it's better just if you want to make a mistake, communicate too much.
Mm,
Just
yeah.
over communicate. That's a good mistake to make if you want to make one.
Uh, that is a great point. I think a lot of people should definitely do those elements because more often than not, like, will someone say, "Oh, you're telling me too many things." Like that's every once in a while, maybe like if you're giving maybe too many direction points of you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. In terms of that to me isn't really communicating though. That's more like dictating what they
Right.
need to do.
Right.
Communicating in terms of just like having a conversation, understand what's going on at home for these people and whatnot. They're not going to say, "Oh, you're getting too personal with me. Why are you all in my business?" It's like that. No one's going to do that. Like people like to be heard. So I think creating that culture, as we talked about at your shop, where it's like it's very easy and open to talk to the leadership about things that are not exactly like tactical all the time of like what's going on at the shop is really nice for a lot of people. I think that then attracts talent from there.
Sure. Yeah. One of the things I used to do when I was a district manager, and I got this from a mentor. Whenever I went to my shops, I would go in through the garage and just start talking to the techs, and not about shop stuff. Just, hey, how's it going? If I knew personal things, we would talk about that. And they would tell me all kinds of things that I would have never found out. And they
Hmm.
tell me, hey, I know, Eric, look, I know you're thinking of promoting Bill, but let me tell you what Bill does when you're not here. And a lot of these great conversations just happen from me just making a connection and talking to them on an interpersonal level. I just think that's just so critical.
Yeah, and I think it's almost a lost art in terms of like nowadays. I mean, everyone is virtual, or everyone is just not. There's just not as many forms of communication that naturally happen from person to person. So those skills just kind of degrade over time, and people are fine just like, oh, instead of talking to them, just peeling off and going in their direction, they're looking down at the ground and they're just staring at their phone. Like there's so many different ways to like force non-communication. I think maybe it needs to start being a non-negotiable. Like if some certain things that just need to happen where it fosters natural communication to happen. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So great. Eric, I I really appreciate your time. I think you shared with us so many valuable things. The 10-20-70 accountability rule and kind of how to go about the process and whatnot. For those owners that are listening and are like, okay, I've heard what you said, Eric. I want to definitely try to apply this. What would you tell them in terms of, okay, like this will be your first step that you do that then will set you up on a course of most likely success?
Well, the first step is to open your mind to what's possible. We all have these beliefs, right? And one of the things that holds people back is what they believe that they can accomplish or not accomplish. Oh, my area is different. My shop is different. Oh, Coach Twiggs, you don't understand. Yeah, I think you just really have to open yourself to stay open to what's possible. And the other thing I would recommend, I just believe in my heart that everybody needs a coach, right? Because you have to think about it, right? As a shop owner, if you could be where you want to be, you would be there. If you could just be there on your own, you'd be there already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we all have blind spots, and sometimes it takes someone from the outside to be able to point out, what you're doing right, that you need to do more of that, and what you could be missing. So that's another piece of advice I would have for anybody that's watching. Be ATI, we're outstanding, but I'm just saying, just in general, I just think ATI, no ATI. I think you need a coach, somebody to really help you, a coach that has the results that you aspire to.
Yep, and can hold you accountable. Like that,
There
it's
you
so
go.
crucial having that partner. Like, yes, there are other people. Like you can have another shop owner holding you accountable, but then like again, having a coach that is like that's their job is to help and guide you. Having that person, no matter what you're doing, goes such a like even the professional sports as we talked about. Like usually the common element is going to be that coach. Like people feel like, oh well, the coach isn't playing on the field, but I guarantee you, if they just didn't hire coaches, if it was just the players that then went out there and went to play, I guarantee that team would have a losing record every single season, without a doubt. Like
Sure.
there's no coach that is helping and guiding. There's just so much that you do within the business that you need someone to step out for you and help guide you. So without a doubt, reach out to Eric here. If you're at least needing a tad bit of guidance there, but even if your first coach that you sign up for maybe isn't the right gel and fit for you, find another one. Do not just give up and say, well, I don't need a coach then. It's like, try and find another one, because I promise a coach will make a world. It made a world of difference for our business personally. And so I know for sure it can make a difference for auto repair shops. So Eric, for those that potentially do want to reach out to you though, and maybe have a question or a phone call, or what would be the best way to contact you?
Sure. I mean, you can email me, eric.twigs@drivenbrands.com.
All right.
If
Eric.
you have any questions, questions about ATI or coaching process or 1027, anything I mentioned today, eric.twigs, TWIGGS @drivenbrands.com.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll drop it down below in the description. But again, Eric, thank you so much for being here. I'm Kelsey with Lift Auto Repair Marketing, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks. Bye.